Again, little twofer today, as it were. But an interesting thought came up, and going back in time. Now, with all due respect to people who listen to the news, different kind of going back in time. So, if we look back, our grandparents and great grandparents, and perhaps even great great grandparents, depending on how old you are, survived the Depression of 1929 to roughly 1940 around the world. And they were preppers whether they knew it or not. My grandparents canned food through the 90s. My grandmother was canning the year before she died. To put food back. When times were good, when they had plenty, they put it back for next year and the year after. They saved seeds. You could actually grow things, which I don't live in to speak of, but the concept remains the same. In times of plenty, you put it back. So you're not using as much or having to scrounge as much or spend as much money when times are tough. What tools, as it were, did our grandparents have to work with to get them through those days? You know, a stock pot of all things. What soup was on today is a little different tomorrow when you add some different veggies and a little different meat and some different flavorings. And you can add the stock pot. A good set of knives. Not some combat knife, but kitchen knives. Good kitchen knives that last and stay sharp. Make that a lot easier. For years, my grandfather had a giant tub at the end of one of the downspouts to catch water for his houseplants. Now, could that water have been filtered and drank? Yep. They didn't plan for that, but they could have. Because they were already doing it. You know? Hunting, of all things. You're getting meat en masse. And depending where you live, the tags aren't that expensive. You got to do some work and put some legwork literally in, but you can keep your family fed. And the first thing you got to realize going with that is how long it'll last. So if you're using a 4-ounce portion instead of a 16-ounce steak, guess what? It stretches 4 times as long. Look at your real requirements per day. What do you have to survive? What do you have to be healthy? Most of us eat too much meat nowadays. Okay, so we cut that out, or at least back, sorry. We add the things we need in healthy amounts. Suddenly we're doing better. And probably losing a lot of weight. What else did they have? What else did they use? You know, look at the things in your grandparents' kitchen. Look at what was in their garage. You know, oil pan for changing their own oil. Jack stands, jacks, tools to fix things that didn't require a mechanic being paid hundreds or thousands of dollars if you go by today's prices. You know, my son had to work on his pickup, and the work quoted was $1,800. $200 in parts and a couple hours worth of work. Guess what? It was fixed. With the availability of YouTube and the videos on it, There's a lot of repairs on vehicles you can do yourself, especially nowadays. So don't automatically think you have to go to a mechanic. Do some research first. Look around. You might save yourself a lot of money. But again, look at what our grandparents did and great grandparents. You know, my grandmother and great grandmother both crocheted, you know, long word, crocheted dish washcloths for the kitchen. Gave them out every Christmas. People didn't have to buy them. You had an almost limitless source of them, and the colors were kind of sometimes kind of funky, depending what yarn they got. But it was a gift that they made. It was useful and helpful to people. Tea towels. You know, set them over the bread rising in the mixing bowl. You dry your dishes with them. Wash your hands. Dry your hands on them. There's a lot of things we look at nowadays and don't realize how useful and just simple they were that our grandparents hadn't used. Now, some of the stuff was just junk, and we've long since moved past it. At the same time, look at what they were doing. Look at how they were doing it. If you can improve on that, great. An air fryer. Hey, let's face it. That's a great way to lower the oil content in your food. You still need some in your diet, but let's face it, frying a chicken leaves a lot of oil in there. And some of us don't need our cardiologists complaining about us anymore. So, look at what people were doing. Look back in time. Look at the things they did to save money, to make money, to save effort. My grandparents, during the summer, would put blankets up over the stairways to block the heat off from the upper floors. In the winter, they'd sleep upstairs where the heat rose above the kitchen. You know? Look at the way houses were designed at one point in time. The master bedroom, where was it placed? Where did people live and why? Why did people have screened in back porches and front porches? To sleep in during the summer when it got really hot inside the house. Now, this was in a day before crime has risen to the level it is today, but at the same time, it can be done today. Nothing like napping on a sun porch. So, have a look back in time. Have a look at the way things were done and why they were done that way. And see what changes you can make that would bring you that same level of comfort and consistency to add your survival knowledge, to add your survival skills, to add to that your toolbox, as it were. I know myself, there's some things I want to get. I want to get a good pressure canner, not cooker, canner. To start putting back some things that are in my freezer. Freezers. It's great having several freezers. A little pricey on the electric bill, but the availability of space to put an elk in the freezer, or a couple of deer and a couple of antelope, and as well as fruit and veggies and everything else. Go blanch some veggies and throw them in the freezer. You know, at the same time, if you can them properly, they can be quite good too. It all depends on what you do and how you do it. So, look back at what was being done before. same way. Or you might. You might find that was the right way 100 years ago. But look at it. Look at what the people did, how they did it, and why. And try and incorporate that in your life. If nothing else, you can look back and have some fond memories of doing things just like Grandma did. That's it for now. Have a great day. Our brother.